First impressions are always unreliable. Well, I don't know that they're always unreliable, but I would probably say that second impressions are probably more important. Anyway, hello everyone! Welcome back to this game! When we last left off, we beat this game. Now, as a quick reminder, this game was inspired by the writings of Franz Kafka. Of particular note is a book called Betrayal, which focuses on a friend, Josef, here. Now, before reading that book, I wanted to find out whether Josef's story in this game could be understood well enough without any required reading. So, to recap, here is what we know. First, Josef was arrested here in his room without any given reason. Then he visited a lawyer, where we learned that the law is doing everything in its power to prevent Josef from gaining any insight on his own legal proceedings. Then we briefly saw Josef giving a speech about corruption. And finally, we saw him through the peephole awaiting news about his trial verdict. So, there definitely seemed to be a gap in the story at the end there. What was the result of his speech earlier? Was that the reason he was being sentenced to death? But then, why was he arrested in the first place? Well, to find out, I took the time to read the trial. All 152 pages. And there was definitely more to the story. Josef meets some other characters, such as the supervisor of the arrest, although the supervisor was just as clueless about why they were arresting Josef, so that's not helpful. Not that it matters much. As I continued reading the book, it became apparent that while this game borrows a lot of dialogue from the book, it's not a direct adaptation. For example, Josef didn't visit the lawyer alone, but had his uncle with him. And the lawyer was not found in his office listening to music, he was actually bedridden. Josef also didn't immediately fire the lawyer. That occurred much later in the story. Meanwhile, I found out that Josef's speech against corruption took place during his first hearing, which in the book took place before meeting the lawyer. And there were also some surprisingly familiar name drops. Lenny was in the story, as well as Titorelli, and not only were they human, but Lenny was the lawyer's maid. However, Gregor was not a character in the book, nor was there any mention of wanting to start a business called Josef Gregor & Sons. As a quick reminder, Gregor was in a completely separate story. He was the man who got turned into a man-sized bug in the Metamorphosis. But anyway, because of these story changes, it's kind of difficult to fill in the blanks in this game's story. After all, we can't show Josef visiting a man named Titorelli when Titorelli is a bug in this game. However, there was one scene that I think would have helped fill the gap before his trial verdict. Near the end of the book, Josef visited a cathedral where he met a priest who informed him that Josef's case ain't going so well, and that Josef is seeking help in the wrong places. Now, of course, if Josef's case ain't going well, that once again brings up the question, what crime was Josef accused of? Well, I'm going to go ahead and save that surprise for later. First things first, we've got an effigy to find. Turns out there are 20 of them in the game, and I found all of them except one. And a quick search on YouTube has revealed that it is actually here in Josef's bedroom before we go into his cabinet. It's going to be hidden behind this box. I tried exploring in the box, but it's further back. Right down here. This is the last effigy in the game. And there we go. And our reward for finding all 20 effigies is the Proto-Human Belief achievement. In every version of the game except for the Switch version, which I happen to be playing. The Switch doesn't have achievements. This pretty much makes the effigy hunt completely pointless. Although, considering the length of this quest, I would argue that getting an achievement is a pretty lame reward regardless. Ah well, at least it was fun exploring around in this game. Now then, next on the to-do list, we are going to revisit the final chapter of this game. The history of mankind is that instant between two strides taken by a traveler. I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that. Seriously, you'd think getting all those effigies would have affected this symbol here at the entrance to tower. I guess that symbol is just there to be there. You know, I was about to make a comment about how Gustav started off standing on 6 legs when we met him, only to suddenly take an upright position. Like he was giving a false sense of security, being on 6 legs like us. Only now he's actually starting out in that upright position. Well, regardless of anything, here's what I'm about to do. I'm gonna make paint all over your... Wait, is that an exit? Nope. Well, anyway, your painting is ruined. Wait, there's something here!
Opportunities for occupational augmentation and discover a different destiny for yourself. For the best
This is the voice from the start of the game.
Tower is a modern office space offering honest, highly paid work to people turned into bugs. At Tower, you'll soak up specialist skills, acquaint yourself with amicable arthropod associates, obtain opportunities for occupational augmentation, and discover a different destiny for yourself. For the best employees, restoration back to human form. Tower is a modern office space offering honest, highly paid work.
You know, there was a moment where I was wondering if Gustav was perhaps the voice that we heard at the start of the game, but no, this is clearly a human voice. That said, an interesting little Easter egg here.
And discover a different destiny for yourself. For the best
Can I interact with it? Guess not.
Offering honest, highly paid work.
Well, I'm gonna smear this up.
At Tower, you'll soak up
there we go.
Skills,
all smeared up.
Yourself with amicable arthropod associates.
So, at the start of this chapter, we met Gregor's father out here. But he was quickly forgotten as the plot got going, so, well, I guess he probably was able to escape from Tower before it collapsed. He's sitting here at the entrance, but otherwise he's not really important to the story. Anything that you say now that we've talked to Gustav? Nope. So, I guess Gregor's dad is just not important. Okay, we have arrived in the verdict room. First thing I'm gonna try is pressing the button before we do anything. And that paper is just empty. Alright. Alright, we just talked to Josef through the peephole. So, the main reason why I have restarted the final chapter, and in fact the reason why I'm doing this bonus episode to begin with, is because there is potentially an alternate ending. Button. Can I have the button, please? Thank you. So, at the end of the last episode, we saved Josef by destroying Tower before they could send out the verdict to get Josef executed. However, what happens if we actually betray Josef? We were promised to return to humanity if we sign the verdict. So, let's see what happens here. Actually, there's a couple of things I want to try. First, I want to see if I smother up the paper. But don't send it to the incinerator. So let me go ahead and do that. And then don't do that. Alright. There must be another way. Lenny sad to break the rules. What does she mean by that? Hint, hint. Don't be suddenly sending it to storage B. But what happens if we do? We got it smothered up. Are we still able to save Josef in this way? Store the verdict. Condemn Josef? Question mark? Verdict accepted. Very well, Gregor. Everyone here is pleased with your obedience. Hello, Gustav. I was just about to come visit you, and... Yes, I know. You've performed well. Unfortunately, there was a development. What happened? We've just found out your certificate was false. False? But you were expecting me. It still doesn't allow you to break the law. I'm very much disappointed in you. Look, I got the certificate. Nobody told me it's false. Well, it turns out it is. I don't even know what it was for. I'm not surprised. It appears there are more important things for you than the letter of the law. You will face trial for neglecting your duties. Man, these law people suck. How did I neglect... Quiet! This does not change the fate of your friend, of course. That judgment has long been passed. So, why in the hell would you drag me? I explained everything to you, didn't I? It's the prison cell for you. We have nothing more to discuss. Take him away! So, I'm guessing this would play out exactly the same regardless of whether we smudged up the papers, because he did not react about us smudging up the papers, the verdict. So does this mean the game is still going to end the same way as before? You know, speaking of achievements, there is an achievement for betraying Josef. Also, it occurs to me that Gustav didn't mention anything about Gregor stealing anything this time. So I wonder if perhaps the theft was sending that tube thing into the incinerator. I just wanted to stop and actually watch this place collapse. It is indeed collapsing. And smoking. Thankfully, it seems to be willing to wait for us to escape. Still no idea what these symbols and words are on the walls, by the way. Well, the painting of Joseph's... The painting on the wall is different. It's no longer that room with Lenny. Can I fall off here? No, I'm gonna say invisible wall preventing me from falling. Oh, and at some point along the trek, we start walking on bug legs. Does this mean we've changed back into human? Well, let's hop in here and find out. With an audio glitch. Well, hey, good news. Despite the plot progressing kinda the same with the self-destruction, it seems that there is an alternate ending after all. And we can see the city outside. Kinda. Is there anything I can interact with? This appears to be the same room we started out in at the beginning of the game. Report. I report having seen on the night of at the place of the crime and committed to stating this before the court of law when asked. I agree to keep secret all communications with the authorities. Signed, Gregor Samsa. Just a minute. Yeah, we'll get that door answered in just a bit. So who is behind the door? Do we need to find a key again? Possibly. Let's ignore it, though. I don't have the proper key. Oh, gosh. Not you two again. Alright. Well, that is the other ending of Metamorphosis. So, why are those two after Gregor? Honestly, that kind of reminds me of the last scene of the book I was talking about. Which, while we're on the subject, let's get back to that book for a moment. So, the primary reason I read The Trial is to find out what crime Josef was accused of. Well, as it turns out, the answer is never revealed. Yeah, that's unfortunate. And as a result, the book was ultimately a very unsatisfying read. Special thanks, Max Broad, for not burning the whole thing. I'm guessing there was some difficulties making this game. Believe it or not, but this is a work of fiction. No kidding. But yeah, the book was frustrating, long-winded, and lacked any humor. For that reason, I actually like the story of this game a little more. It's still a dark tale, but there was a certain whimsy within it. That said, it would have been nice if the game's writers had invented a reason for Joseph's arrest. I mean, they already invented a friendship between Josef and Gregor, and in fact, that last segment with Josef isn't even in the book. Instead, a couple officers randomly show up at the end to take Josef away, much like the ending we just saw. Which, by the way, is another reason why I like this game's story more. At least here, we have a chance to save Josef. He's innocent, accused of a crime that he doesn't even know what it is. And the law is clearly unfair. With that said, I did not choose to play this game for the story. I chose to play this game for the premise. I started this playthrough wanting to crawl around as a bug and see the world from a bug's perspective. Got to crawl around on walls and crawl into nooks and crannies and under some floorboards, which was definitely neat on its own. But I did not expect to also find places like the gramophone club and filing cabinet world. In the end, this game was just really neat to explore. A little buggy, yes, but I like it. And hey, as a bonus, we did not encounter any spiders. With that said, we are done with Metamorphosis. So, what am I going to play next? Well, you remember how I said at the start of this playthrough that I wanted to do some variety this year? Well, I intend to keep that promise. So, next time, we're going to be playing as a little kitty in a big city. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Oink!